You
Every
two.
man for himself.
No,
we just
it
happen
isn't.
to agree on a lot of
It's
stuff.
two men for each other and a poor captain defending herself.
Oh my God, that sounds like an analogy full of buggery on the high seas right there.
It is Frightday. This is episode 41. I'm your host, Byron, and tonight we review Goodnight Mommy, a film whose trailer was scary enough to interest even the most casual of horror fans. And if one Stonehenge wasn't enough for you, you're in luck. We're talking about a new henge in this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies. I'm joined tonight by Kelly
Hello.
and Sam.
Hey, guys.
I don't know if you guys heard, but I Know What You Did Last Summer is getting remade.
No, please.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing, though. Nobody look at your computer. I want to know if you guys can tell me the four main stars of that movie.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yep.
David Boreanaz. Zach Braff.
No.
Are you sure?
Positive.
That's it. Jack Black is in the sequel.
I don't know, but definitely
As well as
Patton Oswalt.
Brandy.
Brandy's
in the
Brian
doing?
Posehn.
How can I know the guest stars of the second
Raven
movie?
Simone.
Freddie Prinze.
Okay.
Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe. It's one of those movies that I watched before I knew really who any of those people were other than Jennifer Love Hewitt.
You knew Hewitt before you knew...
Yeah, because I was obsessed with Can't Hardly Wait. It was like my favorite movie of all time.
And that was before Way of the Gun, so I would have not known who Ryan Phillippe was.
I had no idea that's who was in it. But that movie was bad. I remember even thinking it was bad when I was young.
It's a bad movie, yeah.
Yeah, so they're remaking it. We'll see how good it is.
Do you know who's directing?
I don't.
I don't think they don't announce that kind of stuff. It'll go through 3 or 4 mid-level directors, is my guess. Maybe settle on the...
You never know.
No.
Then you'll
It's
land
not.
on someone making the jump from quasi-legitimate commercials.
It's a big step into horror reboots and sequels. That's how it works.
Oh, it's Oculus director.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Is it Mike Flanagan?
Mike Flanagan.
All right.
Nicely done.
I don't know if I trust that guy. I guess it depends on how good that Before I Wake movie is. Absentia, you watched that, Kelly.
Oh, I liked Absentia.
And they did Oculus, which is not my favorite movie.
You guys are really hard on that one. I thought it was good.
I wouldn't be hard on it if it didn't try to act so smart and be so...
the cuts killed me.
The overlap between the timelines, it's bullshit. Completely unnecessary. Kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah, I thought so.
WWE presents. I mean...
It's not the mark of quality.
Absolutely.
And you guys know that the new Alien movie is actually like rolling now.
Got that Blomkamp.
And Sigourney Weaver.
That's
I mean,
fantastic.
it's gonna be very legit.
Have we talked about the retconning of the third film?
No.
Retconning?
Yeah, they're completely ignoring the fact that the third movie ever existed.
Oh, I like the third movie. Sorry.
Really? You're a Fincher
Sorry.
fan. I was a child when it came out, and I probably watched it before the first 2 movies.
It was
Well, guys-
definitely more action than horror, but
Are you okay, Kelly?
Well, I just want to make sure you guys know that Prometheus 2 is still coming out before
It is.
Alien 5.
Yep.
Like, we're not going to see Alien 5 for like another 3 years.
Yeah, that's okay.
But
though.
it's
Do you see Chappie yet?
no, it looks really adorable though.
I think you would dig Chappie.
Never mind. I was going to ask if it ends happy, but I don't want you to tell me
Of
because
course
that would
not.
ruin it.
Why would I do that?
I don't know. Because if I asked, you might.
Chappie's kind of polarizing, but I think for people who like the Diant word part, I think they're going to enjoy it a little bit more. Are you familiar at all? Diant word, South African hip hop.
Yeah,
duo.
I mean, I know them, but I don't know enough about them or listen to them to make it a big...
Well, do some research. Do some search first. Oh, I gave you that. See me pass that yawn?
Oh, yeah.
Was
The
it
other
bounce?
day, I was riding with my friend in the car, and she was yawning like crazy, and she looks over at me, and she's like, Kelly, I'm a little worried that you're a serial killer because you're not yawning, and I'm yawning. Because supposedly, if you don't yawn when you're around people that are yawning, you're a serial killer. Yeah.
What'd you watch this week, Sam?
my standout this week was a movie called Fascination. It's a French film from 1979. It tells the story of a highwayman in 1905 in the French countryside who commits robbery against a band of other thieves and then flees and takes refuge in a semi-abandoned chateau.
It's very French.
Only semi-abandoned because it's inhabited by 2 comely lasses who...
Wait, what was the first one?
Comely lasses.
Okay. I think you're just using that because it sounds...
This is my husband.
Old-timey.
Yeah.
Anyway, they beguile him with their charms, and it turns out that they're members of a...
Coven.
No, not a coven. Terrible guess.
A ghoul crew.
More or less.
All right.
A circle of women who believe that feasting on the blood of the living gives them eternal youth and, keeps
Sounds
them...
kind of coven-like.
Kind of like a coven.
Yeah. So...
See, this is what I mean. You two bastards gang up against me.
Yeah, it sounds fun. Is that a Shudder flick?
No, this was actually, I don't know what streaming service. Netflix.
Really?
Yeah. The other thing about this is it's from 1979.
Great year.
And it's kind of quasi-softcore.
Okay. You keep falling into these.
Yeah.
Questionably sexual, Sam.
Oh, yeah. So, aside from its questionable use of nudity.
Okay.
Muck.
It was a fairly entertaining and well done movie. And it's worth a watch if you like subtitles and French films from the 70s and vampires.
If it makes you feel any better. And Highwayman?
Yeah.
Is that like in the song where Johnny Cash becomes a
I was
spaceman?
a highwayman.
If it makes you feel any better, I've been on the hunt for a movie called Sex Rituals of the Occult.
Oh, Jesus
Interesting.
Christ.
Is that a documentary?
I don't think so. It is in color, though.
Color?
Yeah.
Am I spending
Real
my
color?
last-
Technicolor?
I don't know.
Well, we're all bad people.
I'm not. I watched American Ghost Hunter, which was a documentary that was rather sad. Probably was dealing with a woman who had mental illness.
Oh.
And then I watched part of Sleepy
No,
Hollow.
can we go into detail of this? What was it? American
Let's
Ghost
talk about this
Hunter?
terrible
God,
documentary.
but here's the thing about American Ghost Hunter. It really was very heartfelt. It was about this guy. He's got a couple shows on A&E that have to do with paranormal ghost investigations.
Multiple shows.
Yeah, Paranormal State and the Ghost Prophecies. So he does both of those. And he's a ghost hunter. I mean, he is reasonable in terms of the fact that he really does look at, okay, can this be explained in any way? He's not as charismatic as the Baggins crew, but he's also not as sensational. He's very much...
He's more fact-based.
He's a Midwest, down-home, average Joe.
Would you describe him as more of a fat douche or...
He was not a douche. That's really rude. Essentially, the whole story focuses around he goes home and there were these strange things that happened in his house, and his mom appeared to be possessed when he was younger, and his dad's really religious and does all these, hail
Seems like
things.
a perfect storm.
Yeah. So, but it's just really sad because it's pretty clear that the mom just had some major mental health issues. There's this layer that's being thrown over it to make it, she's possessed. No,
and the
she's not
family
possessed.
solution is it's a demon.
Right. I mean, and you know me, I'm like the first to really get excited about anything that's a real story. It just made me really sad. And the son, Chad Kalick, what really made me sad is there were parts even where he was saying, is this really all it is? Is this just severe delusions? And this is what my life has been built on. And I mean, it was just really depressing. Unfortunately, not as scary as I wanted it to be.
Terrible new metal soundtrack.
Well, I mean, have you seen this guy? Well, I guess you did watch a whole movie.
I
about
did.
it.
Yeah, but
I did
he's
catch him.
really a well-intentioned, good guy, and it was just a sad story. Persia, Iowa seems like a real shitty place. I don't
Sure.
recommend that anybody go there. And if we have listeners there, tell us about the ghost stories, because it seems like there are lots of ghost stories, and it's grim.
2 paranormal shows on A&E.
Yeah.
I've heard of Paranormal State. I don't know what
Ghost
Prophecies is.
I mean, I don't watch either of those. Really, I'm kind of a Baggins loyalist, so
Jeez, man.
I don't know. It was just kind of a sad story. But I mean, it was interesting. It had Lorraine Warren in it.
That doesn't make it better.
Well, the point was that at one point, this investigation into his mother's possession had been sent to the Warrens.
The Warren.
Well.
Oh, fuck.
Please don't do that.
I like that you think that Byron did
I
that.
didn't do anything. It looks so...
Fuck me.
I love it when Ed Warren comes. I can't wait to talk to Ed later in the show.
Stop it. Stop it.
Ed, stick around.
Please stop it.
Oh my
Please
God.
stop it.
So, okay.
They sent the story to the Warrens when both of them were still
I'm
alive.
sorry, that's so good. I don't
It's
even believe
horrible.
it goes.
Okay, do you know how many times I've walked into my daughter's nursery in the last few weeks and she's been just like staring
Floating.
and looking around like terrified at like something that's in there that I didn't see? It's freaking me the out. And honestly, this whole Evie please thing needs to come to an end.
No, I don't think so. We haven't gotten anything yet. The second
We can stop when we get something.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I'm sure that when we get something, you guys are totally going to stop.
I don't know. At that point, we get our own show on A&E, though.
Yeah.
I'm not stopping.
We pitch a 2-second EVP as a pilot.
I
That sounds
hate
like
you both. That's what I watched this week.
It wasn't a very horror-heavy week for me, you guys, and I apologize. But
Why?
Why do I apologize, or why was it not a horror?
Why was it not a horror week?
It still managed to be rather genre-heavy.
I crammed in a whole season of Empire between still watching some horror movies.
Stop it.
So I'm just saying.
I watched a movie called Time Lapse. Did you guys see this pop up on your Netflix queue yet?
I did and disregarded it.
I bet you did. It's a sci-fi thriller, as the title hints, and it centers on a struggling artist/apartment manager played by the lead from that movie Stung.
Oh.
I don't know his name. Sam, look that up for me real quick. His writer girlfriend and their shithead roommate, who stumble upon a massive machine-sized camera. And when I wrote that down, machine-sized, I realized that there's very small machines, but you get the point. It's a large camera.
Yes.
Clifton Collins Jr.
Yeah.
Great.
You bet.
They stumble upon this giant camera in the apartment of a dead man that takes Polaroids 24 hours into the future.
Why 24 hours?
I don't know. Because he's some sort of scientist. They find his dead body all burnt up, but his clothes are fine. He's in a back room.
What?
The scientist whose camera that is dead.
You're okay, go ahead.
Across the complex from them, the camera is pointed at their window. Each picture that they have up on this giant wall is of their window.
But 24 hours ahead of
Well,
time.
they don't know that until they look at these camera pictures that pop out at 8 p.m. every night. Obviously, they start taking advantage of knowing the future. One of the shithead roommate is like a dog race bettor. He's got a bookie. So he starts putting a picture of the race results on the... I'm sure there's a Twilight Zone.
It's Biff's World Almanac. It's the classic.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's very funny.
It's the first thing that I always go to when I think about time travel.
They fear that if they're not posed exactly the same as the pictures, when the pictures are taken, that they'll end up like the burnt body of the scientist.
Oh, weird.
So things start showing up in the picture, like the shithead roommate kissing the other guy's girlfriend. So they're like, oh, well, you guess you got to do it or else we're going to die. Also, the artist, he's having like severe creative block. The canvas in the picture, he gets to see a day before what he's painting. So it kind of relieves that stress.
Oh, interesting. Weird.
It's just not my normal cup of tea, and it's not an exceptional film. It tends to think it's a little bit smarter than it is.
Tell me about it. I know people like that.
Are we talking about Mike Flanagan?
No, I like Flanagan.
Yeah.
But hey, it's worth a watch. It's starred way too high up on my list on Netflix. It's got like a 4.5. I'll probably give it a 3. But
I distrust the shit out of their algorithms for
new releases.
predicting what you'll think of it.
Oh,
Absolutely.
come on, guys.
I did, however, watch a movie that I absolutely loved. And this movie is called Turbo Kid.
Yay! You've been talking about watching this one for a while.
I'm jealous.
Well, just go watch it.
I know.
Do you have Amazon Prime?
Yes.
For some
I just
reason,
didn't have time to watch it.
Okay, it's out on Amazon Prime for free. I don't know why. It seems crazy because it just came out on VOD a bit ago.
Weird.
Turbo Kid, set in a post-apocalyptic pro-BMX wasteland. The kid, played by a kid named Monroe Chambers, dons the persona of his favorite comic book hero to save his quirky new friend and fight a tyrannical overlord and his gnarly henchmen. This movie is fun.
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 And fun.
And fun.
You read that off my screen? I wrote it 3 times.
Thrice, if you will.
We've got BMX bikes. We've got saw blades, contraption kills, Napoleon Dynamite-esque quirkiness. We've got Mr. Ironsides,
I do like Napoleon D.
other kinds of metal masks. We've got ourselves a beautiful film. Just the right amount of action, comedy, and adorable. A soundtrack on par with Drive.
Okay, whoa.
A near perfect modern homage to 80s genre films.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like Rad Racing. But the
What's
whole...
Rad Racing?
What?
Yeah, what is
It's a
that?
terrible BMX movie from the 80s.
You'd love it.
I mean, maybe if I love this that much, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like Rad Racing.
I think it's actually just called Rad.
I bet it is.
Yeah, it is just called Rad.
Cool.
I think you're right.
I have a t-shirt of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I love Turbo Kid. I highly recommend everyone watches this. It was kind of the standout film at South by Southwest this year. Everyone was going crazy about it.
No, I'm excited for this one. I'm glad that you loved it. It bodes well for
America, history.
And everything.
I can't believe you didn't give me my chocolate mousse cookies.
I also caught up on the strain. It's getting a bit too...
We are so far behind.
Yeah, it's just so mythological at this point. As of someone who's read the comic books, I'm sure you understand all this backstory gets kind of tossed into it. Picture books, yeah.
No, like books, not picture books.
Oh, they're books.
Yeah.
But there's also a comic book. So.
They may have made one subsequent to the show, but they're originally like
books.
Straight up books.
Guillermo del Toro book.
And Chuck Hogan.
Was it co-done by both of them?
Yeah, it was Guillermo del Toro's original idea, and then he got in contact with Chuck Hogan because he liked Chuck Hogan.
What does Chuck Hogan do?
He did Prince of Thieves.
The Aladdin movie?
The Town was the movie of it.
Oh, okay, sure. He's a good author. Right?
Yeah, but not necessarily a horror author, right?
No. Evidently, Del Toro really liked Chuck Hogan's work. And this is from an interview I heard with Guillermo del Toro. He said, I can't express myself in English well enough to write. So I needed someone to do that for me, to put my ideas into to do them justice.
I mean, he obviously speaks English well, but yeah.
He doesn't do the scripts, though.
Maybe not.
I think it's also different. In a movie, you have a whole team working on it. Things get tweaked, changed, and you have the visuals that help carry the story. Whereas in a book, you have only the language.
Oh, absolutely. That's a major difference. I'm sticking with The Strain. I still think it's a great show. I love it, but it is kind of changing and evolving in a way that's a lot different than it was at the beginning.
We need to catch up on The Strain and Penny Dreadful badly.
Mm-hmm. I forgot to mention, guys, Happy October.
Happy October.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
It's going to be...
It's not, but it's starting the most wonderful time of the year. Christmas decorations are out, everybody.
What are you doing? No. What?
I love the Christmases.
You're an insane person.
I can love them even more this year because of Krampus.
Krampus does look good. But let's not get into that. It's going to be a very celebratory, fun month.
It's a big month for us here at Frightday.
Let's get that started with a good old-fashioned edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
So you think since it's October, you guys can actually say Captain for the month of October?
Absolutely not.
Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Earlier this fall, there was a pretty cool discovery made in England that is being called an unfortunately lame name, Superhenge. The upshot is it's a 320-foot long C-shaped site, really close to the original Stonehenge, but it is far larger and is actually, people are discussing a possibility that it's actually older. This new Superhenge is 15 times the size of Stonehenge. Previously, the archaeologists involved in investigating Stonehenge didn't believe that there was anything more in the surrounding area, but different ground testing that was done revealed this Superhenge.
Hey, before we get too far, what is a henge? And should we be blaming the initial namer of Stonehenge for the lameness of the name Superhenge? It seems just like
somebody's fault.
It's just an obvious descriptor, right?
The original one didn't call it Minor Henge.
No, but I'm saying that it's stone. It's made of stone.
Right.
Let's call it something instead of Grass Hill or Blue Ocean or something.
It's funny you should say that. Blue stones are part of it. It is kind of a bummer, I guess. I'm guessing they're going to come up with a better name. I think this was just kind of an initial... People wanted to talk about it, so they threw out a random name.
It's like the working title for Sharknado, and then they're like, we got it.
Right.
It's
and
Sharknado.
No, guys, this is perfect. Print it.
I love it. Roll it. And let's get that guy Jared Fogle in the next one.
So the interesting thing about Superhenge is it's comprised of about 90 stones. And like I said, they cover about 320
did we
feet.
figure out what a henge was?
Oh, I thought we were trying to come up with more Sharknado jokes.
I'm sorry to cut you off. What's
Sam,
henge?
what's a henge?
So a henge is evidently the name for the earthworks that surround the stones. The stones are unique at some sites, such as Stonehenge, but the henge itself is the excavated circular ditch and the berm that surrounds it.
Surrounds a stone. So it's the stones around the stone.
It's the dirt and the ditch
that was dug out
around
to accommodate the
stones.
stone.
So the stones are not a requirement to have a henge.
Sure.
That's why Stonehenge is
it's a henge made of stone.
The circular dirt mound
filled with stones.
Sure.
So these 90 stones at Superhenge, archaeologists believe originally stood about 15 feet tall. Anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000 years ago, whatever civilization was either building them or using them at the time actually pushed them over and buried them underneath a bank of earth. Now this is being called the Durrington Walls Superhenge.
I like that name. It's good.
Durrington Walls. Yeah, I like Durrington Walls too. There's also, Sam, this goes in line with what you were just saying, a 58-foot long ditch that forms an enclosure around an area that's approximately equivalent to 1 mile. And then inside the bank, there are a few smaller enclosures and timber ring circles. So the whole timber component is interesting because there were 3 timber totem-like things that were discovered at Stonehenge that are believed to be literally millennia older than Stonehenge itself. It appears that maybe whatever original civilization was using the Stonehenge area and the Superhenge area used it with some of these timber totems, and then another civilization took over with the stone monoliths. The theory is that these areas have been sacred to civilizations for a long period of time. This specific new discovery, although it's pretty recent, they're saying it dates back, they believe, to the late Neolithic period. Where this kind of comes in for me as a interesting cryptid and conspiracy, there's always been a ton of discussion around Stonehenge and how it was built. And so I'm sure those discussions are going to carry over in the coming weeks and months to discuss how Superhenge was constructed. But the Stonehenge mystery still exists. At the root of it is the idea that there are these huge stones. It is not debated that the stones needed to be moved a minimum of 20 miles, and depending on some theories, as far as 450 miles to come to rest where they are now. And at the time, there weren't devices that we know of that were able to do that. Now, there's some certainly rational theories that have been devised other than aliens moving.
Molecular wands.
Well, molecular wands, ghosts, aliens, lots of things. And I'll talk about those in a little bit.
You're actually going to talk about molecular wands?
No.
Oh,
I mean, that was your gig.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll mention it later.
Okay, great. There is a theory that there was water there and that they used waterways to move them. There's also a theory that it was before the last glacial shift and that the stones were actually closer than we believe they were, or the glacial shift actually moved those stones. So there's certainly other theories, but even archaeologists have said it really is kind of a mystery how they got there. Some archaeologists say we don't see how it was possible. Other archaeologists just say there isn't enough evidence to determine how they got there. But whichever way you cut it, it's pretty interesting. This kind of became a hot topic to discuss in the 1960s. The guy that's often credited with the discussion of Stonehenge possibly being built by an ancient alien race is Erich von Daniken. He was a Swiss man. But really, he wrote this book called Chariots of the Gods in 1968. 2 years prior to that, however, Carl Sagan and I.S., I'm going to butcher this, Shklovsky.
It sounds great. Are you kidding?
They were, well,
don't try again. It sounded good.
Okay. He was an astrophysicist, and he and Carl Sagan wrote a book called Intelligent Life in the Universe. And Carl Sagan posited this theory of paleo contact, which certainly...
The paleo diet? Is that what...
No.
Sure.
God damn it, Byron.
I'm so hungry.
Paleo contact certainly has a more credible ring to it than ancient aliens, I would say.
Yes, absolutely.
And also Carl Sagan's hair is a little bit more credible than the ancient aliens guys on History Channel. A lot of people think that von Daniken kind of started his theory based on Carl Sagan's theory. And Carl Sagan at the time was really pissed off about von Daniken's theories because they were really far out there. Von Daniken, some of the ideas were really interesting, but he was also arrested for fraud. Some of the stories that he told over the years, because he talked about much more than just Stonehenge, he talked about other ancient civilizations and ancient wonders of the world. He really started spinning some stories pretty crazy out of control. So I would guess that there's probably some pretty interesting factual pieces at the root of some of them, perhaps even the first one that he wrote, this Chariots of the Gods, but it was clouded pretty heavily by the crazy stuff that he did. The theory was that Egyptian pyramids, Stonehenge, Easter Island, things like that were impossible to create, and that beyond a technological capability, the mental capacity of human beings at that point was not evolved to where they could actually construct something that was this complicated. So there had to be intervention by some other species. And
I'm reading something here that the pyramids were originally hills.
I don't know about that.
Well, but right above that, it says that they were also possibly made by Satan.
Okay, yeah, the hills...
Possibly.
The hills thing would be really tough because they're pointed.
Sure.
I mean, maybe the Satan
Well,
thing.
it's like Madonna's boobs in the 80s. I mean, they were a little pointed, but then there were synthetic, real pointed things on the outside of them.
We all know the pyramids don't exist. Kelly, continue.
Great. So Von Daniken talks about the idea, and like I said, this is not the first time it came up, but this is really when these theories became popular between Von Daniken and Carl Sagan. Von Daniken talks about how in ancient religious texts, pretty much in any religion in the world, there are references to things coming down from the sky. There are drawings of things that could easily be interpreted as UFOs. And then we've got these incredible ancient wonders of the world that we have no idea where they came from. This was what Carl Sagan had to say about Von Daniken.
Should I lower your voice like I usually do?
Sure. But make it sound really smart because Carl Sagan was great.
Okay. Smart button.
Can you turn it into like a British accent?
I don't think so.
That'd be great if you could. Okay.
Well,
he wasn't British though, so maybe that wouldn't make any sense
Okay.
at all.
That would make it even better.
Let me take that off.
Okay. All right. So
That writing as careless as Von Daniken's, whose principal thesis is that our ancestors were dummies, should become so popular it is a sober commentary on the credulousness and despair of our times. I also hope for the continuing popularity of books like Chariots of the Gods in high school and college logic courses as object lessons in sloppy thinking. I know of no recent book so riddled with logical and factual errors as the works of Von Daniken.
So Carl Sagan was clearly trying to separate himself from Von Daniken because they were talking about similar theories, although it's unquestionable that Carl Sagan took a much more scientific approach to them than Von Daniken did. And as Carl Sagan aged, actually, he really began to show a great deal of interest in the idea of extraterrestrial life. And in fact, that's where Contact came from. He wrote that right before he died. Von Daniken.
Is that the most boring alien movie
I
ever made?
love that movie.
I don't know, E.T. is
Ooh.
pretty dull.
That's true.
I think that Contact is one of the most realistic. Contact and Interstellar, I feel like, are two of the best. I think they're amazing.
I guess, I mean...
Predator.
What?
But they're not meant to be horror movies. They're meant to be
I know
science
that.
movies. You know what I mean?
What year did Contact come out, though? I think I was
90-something.
I was way too young for
You should
that.
rewatch it. It's killer good.
Maybe.
It's great.
It's got Matthew McConaughey. I was going to try to do a Matthew McConaughey impression.
we
Can't do it.
He was good in it. He
I'm
did
sure
a
he
good
was.
job.
Are we talking Interstellar?
No, well,
I
he
know,
was in
it's-
Interstellar and Contact.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he had something to do with aliens.
Oh, that would explain things.
Yeah, that would explain a lot.
I'm going to go sit outside naked with bongos and try to contact the extraterrestrials.
Aliens are
You
just
leave him
real high.
alone. You leave him alone.
You just put the sunroof back in the old Lincoln and cast our eyes skyward.
So Von Daniken talked about Nazca lines. He talked about some crazy buried tunnels that he said were in around the Mayan ruins in Mexico, which later turned out to be completely falsified. But the best thing that Von Daniken did was open a theme park
What?
in Switzerland
Don't
in
do it.
2003
I can't handle it.
known as the Mystery Park.
Sure.
Okay. Unfortunately, it was only open for 3 years before it had to close its doors.
That sounds about right.
Seems longer than I would have anticipated.
But listen to this, Sam. So much like Epcot, it had pavilions. The Nazca pavilions explored the Nazca lines near Peru. However, kind of like Disneyland Paris, it explored them from a fairly skewed perspective with limited scientific input. There was a pavilion called Contact that explored cargo cults, which I can't even speak to. I don't even know what the hell that is. I'll have to look into
Ooh,
it.
I love cargo cults.
Megastones explored Stonehenge, and certainly had he known about Superhenge, it would have been in there as well. Maya explored the Mayan calendar and all of those things. Orient explored the Great Pyramid of Giza. Vimana explored the flying machines described in the Mahabharata and Rig Veda. And then Challenge Pavilion covered spaceflight and Mars exploration. So there was a lot of criticism that came out when this park opened. In fact, it was called by more than one scientist in Switzerland a cultural Chernobyl. It was a problem because he kind of lingered around the park too. He had an office on site and he would like try and interact with the guests at the park.
This actually sounds amazing.
And people really didn't like it very much. He had some huge contest to try and get somebody to replicate a crop circle to hoax it because he was trying to prove that they weren't hoaxes, and nobody was signed up for it. So he hired an artist to do it. And essentially the park failed. Yeah, there were only 200,000 people that visited in 2005. It was in dire financial straits, and it finally closed on November 19th, 2006. It has since reopened as a children's park and as of 2010 was still operating. I don't know if it still is, but it was like Jungfrau Park.
This guy seems like he was his own punishment.
Yeah, Von Daniken, I mean, there's a lot about Von Daniken. He's kind of one of those people that a lot of paranormal researchers and ufologists and people on the scientific side of exploring these types of interesting fringe topics, they get really frustrated with him because he certainly brought a lot of doubt
Hilarity.
to the field. Well, it was hilarious. I mean, he did some pretty hilarious stuff. But tell me about cargo cults, Byron, because I don't know what the hell they are.
I thought it'd be easier to explain. I listened to one podcast about it. I'm not really exactly sure, but I'm going to read a definition. It's a religious movement usually emerging in tribal or isolated societies after they encounter...
Aliens?
No, I guess potentially aliens, but just people with more advanced technology and more advanced societies. And they focus on obtaining material wealth, I guess. Like they give up everything to like...
Oh, so it's like what happened to the Native Americans when us bullies moved in.
I don't think we should call the American natives a cargo cult necessarily, but yeah, I guess maybe in a less obsessive, like...
In my brief research, it seems like it's mostly associated with Indonesia.
The islands. Yeah.
Mm.
It
So
seems
like
a lot
Jungle
more,
Cruise.
It's a lot more complex than I initially thought.
Yeah.
So that's for
I'm
another
gonna leave
day.
that alone.
Well, and my guess is if it was in Von Daniken's Mystery Park, he was probably talking about it from the angle of it was clearly after contact with extraterrestrials, because that's where
that
everything
makes
was coming
sense.
from. So he wrote a hell of a lot of books, most of which were disproven, at least in part. But unfortunately, that kind of brought about kind of a sweeping dismissal of any of the things he talked about, whereas there were some interesting points there. And some of that Carl Sagan touched on, and I think is worth exploring further. But, you know, simple things like if you look at ancient cave paintings and there are clearly objects in the sky that are being depicted.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously that has to start somewhere, that idea of that, and it gets passed down. So it doesn't necessarily have to exist for it to be implanted and ingrained in society.
Right, but as you just said yourself, it has to get started somewhere.
That's true. But I mean, it could be me being like, check out this sick monster I drew. And
That's
then
great. Let's put it on creepypasta.
No, I'm just saying, like, in a basic sense, if we
But
were
even
cavemen
in-
and I draw something, I'm like, that's fucking rad.
But beyond pictures,
I want to paint that in
it's-
my cave.
Beyond pictures, it's discussed in texts too.
It is
of
pretty
people
apparent.
coming down from the sky.
It's apparent, yeah.
So-
I agree.
So it's unfortunate that he brought, you know, such a vomit-colored lens to the subject at the time.
You have to maintain journalistic integrity. You
well, he
can't
didn't do that.
sacrifice
Yeah, he definitely didn't do that. He was pretty bad with the integrity piece. Anyhow. He and Carl Sagan were kind of the first ones to talk about this idea that Stonehenge might have something to do with aliens to begin with. I really do like the paleo contact phrase much better. I think that's the one that I'm going to use instead of ancient aliens or alien astronauts. Is paleo contact just sounds much more scientific.
Sure.
So that's my new phrase.
Okay.
I'm going to look into it a little bit more, but mostly I'm waiting to see what else comes out with this Superhenge, because there's just a ton of information that is yet to be drawn from them.
We didn't even really talk about why the society would have covered up.
Yes.
Yes. So there are a lot of different theories. It could have been to hide it from
The alien.
Well, I guess that's true. That's a good point. I was thinking if, you know, they were being taken over and this was something that was super sacred to them, it's almost like trying to bury, you know, their texts, their ancient relics, things that are really important so they didn't get destroyed.
Yeah, because back then people would conquer and destroy.
Over 4,000 years ago, things were probably fairly tumultuous. I had a couple of thoughts, Kelly, and tell me if I'm crazy here. There's burying them so they're safe because they're their sacred stones. Then the other things I considered, maybe a lot of the stones are missing and they're visible only on the ground penetrating radar by the voids that are left there. But some of them are still remaining. Stone was a very valuable commodity at that time because it was such a nightmare to bring it in from anywhere else. A lot of these old Neolithic sites got repurposed into fences and homes and other things that they could be chiseled into smaller pieces and used for. That could have happened to the stones that are missing. And then the stones that were preserved, it could have been whatever was left of the clergy at that point, or the cult that maintained these, said, we need to do something about this. Let's tip these over and bury them, and we can at least protect them so they're not carried off by our own villagers until at such point we can resurrect them. The other thing that I think was interesting, Durrington Walls, was itself a civilization that got its name from the walls that are comprised of these covered up stones.
Right.
They would have been a fantastic, readily accessible battlement against invaders. Standing upright, they would have been useless. They're spaced out stones, but it would have been very simple to tip them over, pile dirt on top of them, and you have instant fortifications against whatever village decided to ride against you.
Also, a pretty sick BMX jump.
Oh, it would have been great.
I'm telling you, rad.
For
You need to watch it.
motocross.
Sure.
It's great.
So,
So-
do you think that maybe aliens got a little bit too handsy with these people and they're like, we got to cover up this contact point. We don't want them landing.
Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Okay. I just think...
I mean, I don't know. I think there are a lot of things.
Oh, you're telling them not to touch it?
But I
Okay.
do think
and
that-
I shouldn't have brought this up either.
We hopefully will find out more, but right now some of the scientists are speculating that it's actually all part of one large monument, one large site that actually incorporates Stonehenge and Superhenge.
Kind of like a crop circle is connected by multiple... I mean, isn't there paths around Stonehenge too? It's not just a circle. It's got some other...
Yeah, it's more of a complex pattern. And the scientists are all saying that basically they have to start from square one with what they believed the history and purpose of Stonehenge to be, because this puts things in a completely different perspective.
Why didn't they look for this stuff before? Why were
Well,
they just
they
letting people...
had. That's what I don't
people were
understand.
like looking around, f***ing around, touching the... I know that now they can't touch them, but like up until like maybe 20 years ago or something.
They're
like
buried 3 feet underground. You can't tell me that somebody didn't try to plow that field at some point in the last
that.
4,000 years.
Interesting. I don't
It is
know.
weird. It is really, really weird. But they all form a shape, and I don't understand it completely from reading it, but I know that the formation of the stones at Stonehenge has something to do with the summer solstice and almost like a calendar type formation. And this new discovery, the Superhenge, also
Correlates.
right, and it's only on the summer solstice that works. So that is kind of interesting, and
That's one heck of a conspiracy, Kelly.
and I hope that it grows and that we have more, because I think that now that we have a lot more hard evidence in terms of a whole
Hard
other
evidence?
structure,
Like
stones, just like stones. Yeah, exactly. But I think now that we have that, there's hope for people to move past this phase from the 60s where Von Daniken kind of muddied everything. And I would love for people to re-examine some of the things that Carl Sagan wrote and that some other scientists wrote about questions regarding where some of these huge structures, including Stonehenge, could have come from. And who knows, there may be some new clues in Superhenge that have yet to be unveiled. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
Also, what would you call Superhenge, listeners? Let's come up with some better names. Let's brainstorm.
It does need a new name. But I mean, so the other thing that I take from this is how quickly the history of something can change completely. Because up until this point, archaeologists were pretty damn certain about when Stonehenge was created. They knew part of what the purposes were. People weren't exactly sure how the stones got there, but they were sure where they came from. Now, all of that is completely wiped, and they're starting from square one. So it just goes to show that who knows what other evidence may be out there supporting some of the crazy things that I talk about that we just haven't had presented yet.
Thanks so much for that, Kelly.
You bet.
And speaking of, are you sleeping?
No, I'm good.
Let's.
Oh my God.
Maybe we should just roll into a review
Oh yeah, we should review.
of a movie we watched called Goodnight Mommy.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Lifting all those stones was exhausting. We got to go, guys.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Goodnight Mommy is a 2014/2015 Austrian horror film written and directed by Veronika Franz and Severin Fiala. Sam, could you please tell us what this movie's about?
In the heat of the summer lays a lonesome house in the countryside where 9-year-old twin brothers await their mother's return. When she comes home, bandaged after cosmetic surgery, nothing is like before, and the children start to doubt whether this woman is actually who she says she is. What ensues is a terrifying observational struggle with fatal consequences on par with The Shining and Dead Ringers.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
The not-so-sweet life of Zach and Cody.
Yeah.
That's what I wrote down. I've never seen the Disney show. I know it's about twins.
That's good. I'm glad you haven't seen it. I haven't seen it either. It looks horrible.
Kelly and I were lucky enough to catch this at the Stanley Film Festival this year.
We did, and it was stellar.
It was stellar.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me.
You're right into it.
Well, but the thing is that I already wrote earlier in the year about how much I liked it. So it's no big surprise that this was a great movie in the not so humble opinion of Kelly.
Go to frightday.com.
Yeah, go to frightday.com and check out my review. But I'm really interested to hear Sam's take on it because this was one I was super bummed he didn't see with me at the festival.
We seem to have been the last few months hitting on some really, really good evil kid movies.
It's an evil kid revival.
It is. And honestly, I am a believer. I wouldn't have been before, but movies like we reviewed The Boy a few weeks back, and Goodnight Mommy kind of follows in that footsteps of being carried by some really excellent young actors.
And a fairly excellent adult actor, I might add.
Yeah, Suzanne Woost
I
plays
feel like it's
the
got to be
mother.
Woost. Because isn't she Austrian?
Mm-hmm.
And in Austria, the W's are V's.
I listen to like an Austrian talk show a lot.
Okay, that's fine. Sorry, Suzanne.
Yeah, Suzanne Woost gives an excellent performance as the mother, and Elias and Lucas Schwartz, who are twins in real life,
Are you kidding
sons. No, they're twins in real life.
I wouldn't have thought.
It's not makeup.
Smart
That was
asses.
dumb.
Hey, just kidding.
I like that the characters' names were the actors' names. I always love it when they're able to
It's
do
just
that.
easier when you have child actors to respond to your own name.
The pacing was exquisite. The timing was perfect. And it's probably not for someone with a very short attention span.
Even if it was marketed that way.
Yeah, the trailer was a bit misleading.
I've heard a lot of people complain who have seen this movie who may not have initially seen a foreign, slow burn Austrian horror film. The trailer made it appear to be some sort of maniacal...
American horror film.
Yeah, I guess, potentially dangerous mother figure. And that's not exactly what we have. They made it look like she was very unstable, and you get into this movie, and it's kind of this graceful descent.
Which is brilliant marketing, because I don't know what I was expecting, because I made you both shut up and not tell me anything about it. But this was not it, in a very good way.
Well, but I do think a lot of people are pissed that the preview was deceptive. I don't think it was deceptive because I think the preview was very much the perspective of Elias.
There you go.
Like, that's what the preview was, because what you feel watching it is exactly what he feels throughout the movie.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily give away all the great moments the same way an American horror trailer would do.
I agree. Side note, guys, I just saw this that Susanna Woost is starring in a new Gore Verbinski horror movie, actually.
I don't know who that is. Great name, though.
He directed all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
I don't care.
Yeah, he's great. A Cure for Wellness is what it's called. And it actually has Dane DeHaan in it, who I think is a fabulous actor as well.
Dane DeHaan. Was he in Life After Beth?
He sure was.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in it, and Suzanne Woost is in it, and a few other people, but that's coming out in 2016. So she's doing kind of a big-time American horror movie now.
I'm okay with that.
She was great in this.
Suzanne.
That's what I've been saying.
Susanna.
Oh, sorry. Suzanne Woost.
Yeah, I really, really liked this movie. They had a small cast, so I think they could make the most. Three.
Weird, that's a lot like
characters
the
in a
Boy.
few
Oh,
ways.
no.
Well, the Red
Cross.
I mean, come on. But that's
Priest.
yeah, but
They were basically extras.
it's basically a mirror of the Boy's production, you know?
Yeah, they made the absolute most out of, I think, a modest budget. It didn't rely on cheap scares, CG, character-driven throughout. The atmosphere was completely permeating. You felt like you were there, isolated at this house in a hot summer, trying to make the most of a life that's been turned upside down. And you really do start to feel the mother is, this something.
It's the interesting part is it throws you into a position where you know nothing of the mother, and you almost instantly trust the two kids' opinion because you have no idea. You start the movie with them, and that's all you know. A very effective way to start a kind of a mysterious film like this.
Coupled with the marketing, where it very much played up the evil mother angle.
Do we throw up a spoiler, like a medium spoiler?
I think we owe it to people.
If we do it, let's just do it.
This is a medium spoiler, and we're going to go pretty far up through, not giving away the actual finale, but we're going to go pretty deep into it. It is now time for a medium edition of Dead Giveaways. This is the point in the show where we potentially spoil a movie. If you don't want this movie ruined, I highly recommend you pause and watch Goodnight Mommy before continuing, which you can, because it's now out on VOD.
It's really just the tip of Dead Giveaways.
Sure, just a little. I mean, I definitely think that you should watch this movie now, but I don't think that we're going to do anything terribly destructive to your idea of this movie.
I'm going to...
Don't do
I'm gonna ruin it.
Stop it, please. Before we go too far, I mirror your idea of how dense that feeling of dread is in the air. Beautifully symmetrical and tastefully grotesque throughout. It's so balanced in its darkness. The boys take it a bit too far.
I don't know. Boys will be boys.
Yeah, but they're really trying to figure out if this is their mom. They're really calling into question, is this mom? It doesn't seem like it's mom. We're pretty freaked out. We don't think this is mom.
But let's test it a little bit more.
Well, I mean...
Let's have some theories that come somewhere earlier before...
Yeah.
One of the kids is a little bit more gung-ho into this forced admittance.
It's an interrogation. They're trying to find out what this thing that's masquerading as their mother has been with their real mom.
And this is when things shift. The mom wakes up in bed. Are we skipping anything by going this far in? It is a slow burn. Did you feel bored at any moment during this movie?
No, I just felt like the paranoia and dread just got heaped on more and more every minute that the boys were, doing something every day and maybe a little mundane.
It's sparse with the dialogue, but you're still hanging on every word and everything's there for a reason.
It reminded me a little bit of a much smarter, darker Sixth Sense.
Okay. I haven't seen that ever. What's the end like?
It's
what's the end of that movie like?
Kaiser Soze is Kevin Spacey.
Sure. The mom gets tied up. Some crazy shit happens. We've got a lot of super glue. We've got some small scissors.
A magnifying glass.
Things ramp up so drastically, but not in like a weird offensive shock way. It almost is natural, the progression of this descent, but it's shocking.
Yeah. The boys think and know that these actions are absolutely necessary to save their mother.
Well, I don't know. I hesitate because it's hard for me to say much more without actually like
the break, the big reveal.
Yeah, and I don't want to do that.
There's a lot of things that influence their decision.
Right. They are desperate, but there definitely is a turning point where they're really trying to figure out if this is their mother. Suddenly they very, very clearly become the villains. And it's really scary and makes me wonder if my child could ever turn on me like that.
Well, don't give her a reason.
Yeah.
Bandages can be a barrier, Kelly.
Yeah, I don't plan on it.
We shouldn't go too much further. I think we talked about the elements of this movie and what worked. Is there anything that didn't work for you?
Super minor. It really bugged me that the Red Cross volunteers just came into the house.
Yeah, what kind of world is this?
Well, we don't live in Austria.
Madness.
It's true.
Keep in mind, this isn't like Colombia from The Boy.
This is Austria, Sam.
I mean, I would honestly rather spend months filming in Austria because you've got schnitzel.
Okay, is that some sort of sausage?
No, and it's a horrible misconception on the part of stupid Americans. Schnitzel is amazing flat pounded chicken or pork
stop doing it
or
into the
veal,
mic, please.
And you bread it and you fry it and then you put lemon juice and
chicken
salt on
fried
it.
Steak.
But infinitely better.
They pound it flat first, and you don't get gravy; you get lemon instead.
And salt.
Oh man, actually sounds really good.
It's freaking delicious. Good. It's the best thing ever. I'd eat it 5 days a week if I could.
Also, incredibly beautiful. The cinematography.
Schnitzel?
No,
gorgeous.
I mean, I'm sure it looks great. I actually don't think it looks great, does it?
It does.
It just
Everything
looks like a
about
thin
it
chicken
is
fried
great.
steak.
Oh man,
it's real good.
Okay.
God, I'd kill for some schnitzel right now.
Yeah, the movie,
Kelly.
The cinematography is fantastic. The sound is brutal at times.
Are you talking about your sound system that repeatedly shut off during the middle of this movie?
I don't know how we survived all summer without that, and then it just started overheating now.
Oh, that's all right.
When the sound was working, the sound was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was some real squirm-inducing audio. Hats off to the sound designer.
What really worked is having such a quiet, slow movie. When things kicked in, it made them extremely effective. And the fact that everything that happened seemed realistic. It wasn't like we jump into a Martyrs-esque violence where a door kicks open and people start shotgunning people against walls, you know?
It wasn't the gonzo kind of madness
but it's
that
still
leads to
mad.
extreme violence. Absolutely. The very definition of.
Yeah, watch this movie. Kelly, you said something about this being nominated for an Academy Award?
Nominations haven't come out yet, but I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if it was up for Best Foreign Film.
But didn't it say something?
Austria, this was a little while back. Austria announced this movie, Goodnight Mommy, as their country's submission for Best Foreign Language Film in the Academy Awards.
I wouldn't be surprised if it won. I would be surprised. This is so hard, though. This isn't your typical horror film, and I'm afraid of what the trailer may have done to its perception. Academy Award judges don't like horror traditionally.
Oh, no, they're the normiest of the normies.
So
but
I wouldn't be surprised if they give it a shot.
On the technical merits, on the acting in particular, this movie has it all.
Yeah, without giving anything else away, I think that's about all I can say about it. I fell in love with it when we first saw it, dazed and delusional from seeing so many movies, and I loved it every bit as much when I watched it tonight.
I got through that Stanley zombie phase. I think I might have missed a couple minutes, but
it's okay because you hallucinated a couple other minutes.
Yeah. So I Sam, what would you give this movie?
I am going 7.0 in Goodnight Mommy. I didn't find anything not to like about this at all. In particular, Suzanne Wust's performance as a broken, struggling woman trying to cope with some incredibly awful events was amazingly compelling. You know, we went from hating and fearing her to just wanting to rescue her so desperately. The Schwartz twins as well were by turns very endearing and beyond creepy.
I'm surprised you didn't give it higher than that. I thought you liked it more than that. I love this movie. And I know that I'm always the one, other than the torture porn, who gets on board with a high review for a film. But I want to say that this is one that, to me, is right where effective, non-gratuitous, non-ridiculous, violence-based movie can go. Very effective and terrifying. And there was some really disturbing shit in there. But it wasn't absurd. And it didn't go to a place that was difficult for me to actually enjoy the movie. Like, there were parts I cringed and had to turn away from, but it was still within the realm of what I would consider a really high quality film. And for all of those reasons, I would give it an 8.8.
I'm not sure if you were paying attention to me during the movie. I hope you weren't, but there was a good portion of the third act of this film where I wasn't really breathing.
You flinched? Yeah, I still don't understand that. But
are you kidding me?
I just don't understand how you can watch movies that are like...
There's a big difference between cutting a small piece of skin and cutting off an arm. I don't know why, but it's a fact.
Okay.
When the realistic violence happens, especially with between such innocent people, that's when things really are effective for me. It makes for a completely accessible foreign horror film, especially for people who might be more leaning into the art house side, in the smarty pants zone, as I call it all the time on this show. You know, every time I talk about smarty pants zone.
Yeah,
it's a normal thing we do here on Frightday. I love this movie, and I give it a 7.3. High fives to Suzanne Wust for that dread-soaked mattress scene. Holy shit.
Yes.
Real devastating stuff.
Yeah.
Watch this movie.
Yeah.
And if you have watched this movie, let us know what you thought. Tweet us at Frightday. We'd love to hear it.
And for those of you who are into having a little bit more contact with us, or a little bit more pride and sporting your love of Frightday, please don't hesitate to go onto the site and donate $1 or whatever you feel like you would like to contribute to Kelly's cryptid exploration fund.
Wait, are you trying to sell t-shirts and pins right now?
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to let our fans know what kind of opportunities are out there to show what cool podcasts they listen to.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're doing them a favor.
I'm doing you guys a huge favor because you do us a favor by bringing us such great questions and suggestions for the show. Feel free to pick up a pin or one of the fabulous shirts that is up there. Hey, Byron, can I safely say that the Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracy shirts are up?
No.
I really like locking us in with that. I'm happy to announce that the Kelly's Cryptids, strike that.
No,
the Captain Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracy shirts are now available on our website in our shop.
As well as the Kelly's Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies pin as well.
Oh shit, man, seriously?
Well, we're all out of the hair wolf.
Oh my God. So you guys, now that you can get a Captain Kelly pin, you clearly, I mean, I'm sorry, but that's worth its weight in gold, people.
It's very light.
I love my crew. And
your crew?
Yeah, my academy.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So any of you guys who would like to do that, please feel free. We do still have a few, though not many, Too Ghoul for School shirts, a few even glow-in-the-dark ones left, but those are going fast. So
shop.frightday.com.
Yeah, sport your Halloween-themed gear, specifically relating to cryptids and conspiracies, of course.
And while those are great ways to show your support for our lovely program that we're providing to you for free, there's other ways to support us. You can go on to iTunes and leave us a review, right, Sam?
You can certainly do that. It means the world to us, and it helps us keep doing what we're doing. And in return, do your review, shoot us an email, contact@frightday.com, and we will send you some of those awesome pins that Byron was talking about.
And Kelly might write you a note, right, Kelly?
Oh, I'd love to.
I mean, just for example, let's just look at a review we just got here by someone named Hannah Nanner 8406.
Hannah Nanner.
Yep. Gave us 5 stars, said, a lot of fun. They always have something new to check out and give really good, honest reviews of movies.
Oh, Hannah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And if you're listening right now, email us, contact@frightday.com, and we'll send some pins your way.
Woot.
Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Byron.
It's time for your favorite segment.
I honestly think I'm going to leave the room for
this. You can't leave the room.
It completely freaks me out
because
now.
It's time for... EVP, or electronic voice phenomenon, is a common practice within the field of parapsychology and on this podcast, used to capture voices of spirits. Right, Kelly?
Yeah.
And we had a bit of an encounter earlier in the show.
Oh, God.
With potentially one of the world's best paranormal investigators.
Frightday is always making new friends.
Do you want to interview Ed Warren?
I would rather not bother any otherworldly spirit because I think that we should let them do what they want to do, and hopefully that doesn't involve scaring the shit out of me.
Well, no, we're going to bug the shit out of them.
No, please.
Ed. Okay. Let's be nice to Ed Warren because he gets this more than anyone. This man has attempted to contact spirits for years.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we want to ask Ed Warren?
Probably nothing, I would say.
No. Okay. So Ed or any other spirits that want to pretend to be Ed Warren who have some sort of...
Oh, don't let spirits pretend to be other spirits. Do you realize what kind of trouble that gets us into?
Right?
Byron, you don't have to sleep here.
Fine, Ed Warren, if it is you.
Or someone speaking as Ed Warren.
Stop it!
Just simply prove to us that there is a spirit world. The thing that you've attempted to do for years, I'd like to provide you an opportunity to prove it to thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
So Ed, speak up. Now's your chance, and we'll give you the floor. No one breathe into the mics. Thank you so much, Ed, for all the things you did during your life and hopefully in your afterlife, if that's not an awful, hellish experience. I don't know what that's like for a ghost. So, I mean, hopefully you're doing...
I'm sure it's great.
I bet it is. You know what's great? Hanging with you two.
I feel the same way.
We've got so much stuff going on at frightday.com, and we have a little bit of a trip coming up. We're going to spend some time on the
gloomy Pacific coast.
Yeah.
Whee!
I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be doing there. Hopefully, I can trick Kelly into going to something scary, but we might just end up in a beach house watching a movie, right?
Either
I like
way.
that. That's
All right.
great. Let's do that.
Thank you so much, as always, for listening to our podcast. It means the world. New people, I want to hear from you.
We want to hear from you.
Kelly, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at Kelly Frightday on Twitter, or you can email me, kelly@frightday.com. And I love hearing from all of you. The more, the merrier.
I'm tweeting at Sam Frightday. You can reach me by email, sam@frightday.com.
I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter. Byron@frightday.com is my email address. And my serial killer of the week is Dennis Rader, also known as the BTK killer. I listened to about 40 minutes of his confessions this week.
Ooh.
That guy's very matter of fact with what he does.
Yeah. He
Yuck.
binds, tortures,
And
and
kills,
kills.
yeah.
Yuck.
And until next Frightday, I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Sam. Be good to your mother.
Earlier this fall, there was a huge discovery that was made in England.
Start that over without being so mad. That's all.
I fucking hate you
No,
guys.
I'm not trying to be mean. I just can't be like that.
Oh my God.
All right.